All right, Doom Vivamus Vivamus Epicureans. This is the Marvel Epic Collection Podcast One-Shot Edition. I'm your host, Nick Smith, and I'm joined by...
Stojr from Stojr Shell. How's it going, Nick?
Doing well, hopefully calming down after the last episode. We are participating in Kurtis Findlay's Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club, and this one-shot today is going to be our brief thoughts on today's issue, which is X-Men number 109. There's the cover. Home are the heroes. Alright, so after returning from outer space, the X-Men take a day off, with most going for a picnic at a lake in western New York. Wolverine decides to join in, but he goes out into the woods instead to do some hunting, but he is confronted by James McDonald Hudson, aka Weapon Alpha, and later known as the Guardian. Hudson came to retrieve Wolverine, whom he's calling Weapon X, saying that it was time for him to return to service with the Canadian government. Wolverine refuses, and of course a fight ensues, which gets the other X-Men involved, and Moira McTaggart gets injured. Hudson retreats, and thinks to himself that next time he's going to have to bring Alpha Flight. Alright, Stojr, what are your thoughts?
I love this issue. I think it's there's a lot of character development here. Things move very quickly. You get a lot of different hints of different things. So you have, I think, the first time that they mentioned that Nightcrawler's bamfing smells because Moira doesn't want him to do it in the house. Because it stinks up the place. I don't know. I don't remember them mentioning that before. They might have, but
There was
but I
some
think that's what
mention. There was some mention
Is
of
there?
it smelling like brimstone, but not everyone
Oh, okay.
complaining about it smelling. So I think it's a little,
Gotcha. So
yeah.
maybe not the first time. Yeah. You get Storm very comfortable in the nude, which will be something that that she continues with throughout her life, and sort of having that like attic apartment with the greenhouse up there. You get a little bit of side eye from Professor X, where Banshee and Moira are making out right in front of him, which they apparently had a previous relationship throughout here. You get some of the conversation and turmoil about what Jean knows, that who Scott's father is, that he's not really dead, that he's Corsair, and that Corsair didn't want Scott to know that he was her father, and that Jean and Storm can kind of commiserate with this, and she's aware of it too, and so she has somebody to go to lean on, while at the same time Jean's trying to tell her parents that she died and came back to life, and now she's this ultra powerful being, which is not an easy thing for them to take. We revisit the girls that walked past Nightcrawler and Colossus at the on the Christmas episode, issue 90, I think it was. Because Amanda is the same Amanda that we saw in front of the Christmas tree. That
Yeah,
I said I wasn't sure who that was, and that she'd be important later. Apparently, Curtis had mentioned online that she would be showing up later, and she's the Amanda that Kurt dates for a while here, I think. Um,
I forgot to
and
I forgot to
yeah,
mention
yeah.
real quick in the last Iron Fist issue, one of those two girls was at the party. Kurt asked her to dance. I don't think it was Amanda. I think it was the other one, but I might be wrong because he calls her by the last name. So yeah, they're getting little hints in there.
Yeah. And I think like there's this you know almost flirty relationship, or at least friendship developing. Like they haven't really pushed it into anything romantic yet between Colossus and Storm. And I think it's really smart, and I don't remember if there's ever an issue where somebody pushes it a little further and gets pushed back, but they definitely have like a brother sister relationship later. So I mean, this is like, if they don't, I almost hope that they never try and make it romantic, because they really have some strong world building, friendship building, relationship writing here, as they sort of talk about their past and get to know each other. In previous issues, Colossus has been shown to be pretty protective of Storm, and things of that nature. Not that she necessarily needs it. So, I like this. Anytime you show Banshee getting pissed off and flying through the sky too, that's a pretty cool effect. I enjoyed this issue, pretty much the whole thing. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is definitely a fun one. I do think it was a little weird going to this after the Iron Fist issue, because there's no way the two issues can work seamlessly in a timeline like we're made to think the Epic Collection will do. But it's comics, it's fine. Things are happening simultaneously, and we can just imagine it works. Yeah, again, a lot of great character moments. One thing that I really appreciate is that there seemed to be an effort to build up some of Wolverine's character, which hasn't really been explored much yet. If anything, Wolverine just comes off as this huge jerk before this issue. There was one interaction in this one that I recall the first time I read thinking was really stuck with me, that kind of spoke to Wolverine's character. And that's this interaction between Wolverine and Storm on page 363. This is the first indicator that there's some depth to Wolverine that we haven't seen yet. This is when Wolverine says he wants to go out hunting, and Storm says, "What, you would kill these harmless animals?" And Wolverine says, "Kill? Nah, kill is easy. Sneaking up on a doe and touching her without seeing you and running away, that's skill." All right, so that I thought is, oh, here we go. We're getting some depth to Wolverine. He's not just a jerk, right? He's got layers there. He's like a little Shrek. All right.
And it's interesting what you say there with like the timelines not working out. It would almost have been interesting if Jean and Misty's apartment was in a different city, because then it would make sense that like they stop there first and then they go home to New York. But I just looked it up, and apparently they was in Greenwich Village. So, I know that technically the X-Men are in upstate and not in the city, but, it's not really that far that they don't get there. Because, like, Wolverine on the first page is like, I got to get out this costume, as if, like, they've been traveling the whole time. But in the Iron Fist issue, he's simping for Jean and like, ripping up pictures and then getting into the costume again. So... Mm-hmm. Yeah, the timeline's a little fuzzy there, but we'll give it a pass.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts there, Stojr?
I'm enjoying it. I'm glad that they're back on Earth, and we get this sort of hanging out by the lake is something that that the X-Men have done constantly throughout their run. Right? There's baseball games, there's football games, there's probably other visits to the lake that I'm not thinking of. So this becomes a staple of X-Men over the years that it's always very enjoyable.
Yeah. And, come to think it, we've talked about before of where do you go once you have a very strong villain and so forth? Or where do you go when you have saved the universe, which the X-Men have literally done? Well, these smaller little pieces where it's just them hanging out, relaxing, and so forth. You build some time in between the big events, right? And I think that's being handled really well. And yet we still have a mystery going on, right? Who's this Weapon Alpha guy? What's going on with Wolverine's background? I think it's just great.
Yeah, because this is his first appearance, right? Like, there's no Alpha Flight or any. I know that Wolverine worked for the Canadian government, and that's referenced, but there wasn't any side stories. Alpha Flight comes later, right?
Yeah. So far as I know, that's a later thing. I don't know exactly when later, but I think Alpha Flight is an invention of John Byrne, so this might be laying the groundwork for the future.
Yeah, agree.
All right. Well, if you guys have enjoyed our thoughts, follow us on YouTube, where we are going to read, rate, and review a full Epic Collection trade paperback every other week. Thank you again for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Go on.